It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. This is a profound confirmation of what you has been sensing, but could not fully articulate, for this is revelation, this is truth, and this is power being released into your life. There have been people, some near, some distant, who attempted to curse your life, whether through the careless words that left their lips, the hidden thoughts they harbored in the quietness of their minds, or the ill intentions they carried secretly in their hearts. Yet what they failed to realize is that you are not exposed to destruction because you are divinely covered, chosen, and uniquely anointed, and therefore every scheme, every weapon, and every curse they sent against you was immediately reversed, overturned, and backfired before it could ever touch you. To bring clarity and depth to this truth, we will break it down into 7 powerful chapters so that you can fully understand not only what happened, but also why no weapon, no matter how cleverly formed, will ever prosper against you. But before we journey deeper into these revelations, pause and prepare yourself. Like, share, and subscribe. Because what is being released here is far greater than mere content. It is divine confirmation, a sacred message specifically designed for the chosen ones. And if your spirit resonates with the frequency of these words, let your agreement be known by typing the number 77 in the comments right now, for that number is not random. It is a holy signal, a sacred code, a declaration to the Most High and to the universe that you are awake, aligned, and ready to receive every blessing and every promise that already belongs to you by divine right. Understand this. Not everyone will reach the end of this message, for only the truly chosen will remain. Yet those who do will not leave the same way they came, because they will receive clarity. Their awareness will be activated to new levels, and the hidden blessings encoded within every word of this revelation will begin to unlock in their lives. This message is not something you hear once and then move on from. No, it is a living truth, breathing and unfolding layer by layer each time it is received. Listen again and again, as many times as your soul requires, for with every replay you will hear something new, gain a fresh insight, and discover a divine key you may have overlooked before. Now, with open hearts and ready spirits, let us begin this journey together and dive deep into what heaven has prepared for you. Chapter 1. The weight of their words that were placed on you were never yours to hold. Chosen one, because even though there were individuals who could not handle the brightness of your light and therefore attempted to smother it, their actions were never a reflection of your wrongdoings, but rather a revelation of their own insecurity. For your very presence exposed everything they were pretending to be. Without you lifting a single finger or saying a single word, your authenticity unveiled their carefully constructed masks, and your peace unsettled the chaos they were hiding within themselves. Instead of choosing to face their inner struggles, heal their wounds, or elevate their spirits, they choose the easier yet darker path, one of speaking against you, plotting behind you, and projecting their unresolved issues onto you. Yes, they cursed you, not always with formal rituals, dark spells, or visible ceremonies, but with poisonous words, destructive intentions, toxic gossip, hidden envy, and the heavy energy of resentment. Some smiled directly into your face while secretly praying for your downfall in private spaces. Others clapped their hands in public as though they were your supporters, yet inwardly they nurtured the silent hope that you would stumble, fail, or crumble beneath the weight of life. There were even those who sought to manipulate your thoughts, subtly whispering lies to make you believe you were unworthy, hoping that you would sabotage yourself so that they would not have to lift a hand against you. But what they failed to understand is this: you are not only guarded, you are chosen. You do not walk this world alone, for divine favor surrounds you like impenetrable armor. And whether their attempts were directed at your health, your peace of mind, your finances, your relationships, or even your destiny itself, none of it could take root, none of it could attach, and none of it could prosper, because the unchanging spiritual law stands true. Whatever a person sends out into the world is ultimately what returns to them. Every hateful word they whispered against your name was not lost or forgotten, but was recorded in the unseen realms of the spirit. Every wish they formed for your failure was not absorbed by you, but was echoed back toward them with multiplied force, carrying the weight of their own intentions. They did not succeed in cursing you. They unknowingly cursed themselves. The curses they sent were never meant for you, nor could they ever rest upon you, because you were never created to carry them. The weight you once carried was never the result of being cursed, but rather the evidence of your heightened spiritual sensitivity. What you felt was not destruction, but awareness. You picked up on the battles waged in the unseen. You sensed the atmosphere shifting. You discerned the tension pressing in from the spirit realm. Yet in the midst of it all, God ensured that none of it ever pierced the sanctuary of your soul. The darkness surrounded you, but it never touched the core of who you are. Instead, every moment of pressure became training. Every encounter with opposition sharpened your discernment, awakened your perception, and prepared you for a greater level of spiritual clarity. What was launched against you never landed on you, because heaven itself raised up a shield. The intentions of others collided with a divine covering, bounced off your energy field, and were flung back into the very space from which they originated. Not because you held malice in your heart or desired their downfall, but because spiritual law cannot be altered. Justice in the unseen is inevitable and unavoidable. What they wished upon you, pain, delay, and confusion, was never allowed to manifest in your life. Instead, those intentions boomeranged with multiplied force, returning to the sender as the inevitable consequence of their own actions. Understand this, chosen one. You were never truly the target. You were the mirror. What they attacked was not your weakness, but the reflection of their own lack. They saw in you a light, a strength, a purity they could not find within themselves. And rather than honor what God had placed in you, they sought to destroy it. Yet in trying to wound you, they only unveiled the truth of their own hearts and the strength of your divine calling. Every weapon they formed revealed who they were becoming, and every shield that protected you revealed who you were always destined to be. The curse they spoke never touched you because it never had permission, it never had authority, it never had power, it was never yours to carry, and it never will be. Chapter 2. Your purity, without any deliberate effort on your part, became the very spark that triggered the hidden darkness residing in others. Chosen one, you did not need to openly expose anyone's flaws, wounds, or pretenses, because your very presence, carrying the weight of truth and authenticity, did the exposing for you. You were never attempting to create enemies, nor were you intentionally trying to offend or step on fragile toes. All you were ever doing was faithfully living in your truth, walking confidently in the light that was entrusted to you, and remaining firmly rooted in the divine assignment placed upon your life. Yet even this simple commitment to authenticity and elevation, was enough to stir and awaken the hidden demons in people whom you once believed were truly for you and on your side. The truth is, you did not change in the way they perceived. Rather, you elevated to a higher dimension of being. You healed from what once held you captive. You grew into new levels of wisdom and strength. You stopped diminishing your own light in order to make others feel comfortable in their shadows. You began to speak less, to listen more deeply, and to observe with discernment instead of reacting without thought. And yet somehow, this quiet transformation, this blossoming of your soul, triggered discomfort in the hearts of others. They began to treat you differently. Some grew cold, others let jealousy creep in, still others allowed resentment to shape their actions. And you were left to wonder why. The answer, however, was never truly about you as an individual. It was not your personality they were rejecting, but rather the purity within you that shone like a mirror, exposing the brokenness within them. Many people cannot endure the presence of what is authentic when their entire identity has been constructed upon deception, illusion, or shallow foundations. Your peace, though gentle and genuine, unsettled their raging inner war. Your joy, radiant and unshakable, irritated the bitterness they refused to release. Your clarity, birthed from alignment and healing, confused the chaos they continued to embrace. And your discipline, born of self-control and purpose, forced them to confront the uncomfortable reality of their own laziness and complacency. In that moment of being inwardly exposed by the light you carried, each person was confronted with a choice: to evolve by rising to a higher standard, or to attack in an attempt to pull you down. Sadly, many chose to attack. They assumed they were striking against you as a mere person, without realizing that their struggle was never with your humanity. What they failed to understand was that they were not fighting you, but rather contending against the divine presence that surrounds you. For you are anointed, you are appointed, and you are set apart. You are not ordinary, nor can you be measured by human standards. The power that flows through you is not a product of your own strength, intellect, or effort. It is a sacred gift bestowed from above, and such divine power inevitably causes spiritual disruption wherever it is present. To those with pure hearts, your presence brings rest, comfort, and peace. But to those bound in bitterness, resentment, and pride, your presence becomes agitation and discomfort. Wherever you go, the very atmosphere shifts, not because you are striving to force change, but because transformation is interwoven into your very being. You are not merely existing, you are carrying light. And that light, by its very nature, disrupts darkness, reveals truth, and establishes order. That is why individuals who have not yet confronted, acknowledged, or healed their own deep wounds will often misinterpret your quiet confidence as arrogance, mistaking your strength of spirit for pride. The light you carry, which is pure and genuine, feels like judgment to someone who is still desperately hiding within the shadows of denial. You do not even need to utter a single word, because your very energy speaks more loudly than any sentence ever could. When you step into a room without saying or doing anything intentional, people can begin to shift uncomfortably in their seats or within themselves. It is not because of something wrong you have done, but rather because of the undeniable presence of what you carry within you. Chosen one, never forget this. Your purity is rare in a world that has grown accustomed to compromise. It is powerful, unshakable, and luminous. That is exactly why it draws both admiration and attack at the same time. Those who genuinely love truth, who are yearning for what is real and authentic, will find themselves magnetically drawn to you, seeking refuge in the light you reflect. But those who are still living within lies, who have not yet faced their own darkness, will often feel threatened by your presence, not because you have caused them harm, but because they have not yet found healing, and the wholeness you embody becomes a mirror they cannot bear to face. Here is what you must always remember. You were never sent to simply fit in with the crowd. You were sent to shine. You did not come into this life to blend into the background unnoticed. You came to break generational curses, to shift the very atmosphere around you, to release heaven's frequency into a world surrounded by darkness. So when people turn cold toward you, when friends who once walked with you begin to fall away, when even family members start to act distant and withdrawn, do not take it as a personal rejection. They were never truly rejecting you as a person. They were rejecting the uncomfortable confrontation that your light brought to their lingering darkness. And that rejection is not a burden you were ever meant to carry. It is their inner work to face, their responsibility to accept, and their journey to walk. Let them go without bitterness. Allow the mask to fall without resistance. Permit the separation to take place, because what is unfolding is not a tragedy, but a divine orchestration. Their resistance is your confirmation. Their rejection is your redirection. Their attacks are nothing less than loud announcements that your elevation has become undeniable and can no longer remain hidden. You did not lose them, even though it may feel that way. Rather, they lost access to you. And it is not because you are superior to them, but because you are in the process of becoming all that you were destined to be. The higher you rise, the more clarity you gain. You begin to see with spiritual eyes who was truly walking with you out of love, and who was merely hiding in the glow of your light, hoping you would never shine so brightly that their shadows would be revealed. But now the veil has been lifted. The truth has become clear. And your purity, it is not only preserved and protected by the divine, it is also powerful beyond measure. a force that shifts environments and exposes truth without effort. Chapter 3, The Divine Reason. God permitted the curse to expose hearts and teach lessons. Chosen one, there are seasons and moments in life that, while you are walking through them, seem confusing, unfair, and almost impossible to understand. In the midst of the pain, you cry out and ask God, "Why did you allow them to say such words against me? Why did you permit them to try to sabotage my name, betray my trust, curse my path, and rise against me when all I have ever done is walk in love and sincerity?" Yet here lies the divine revelation. God did not permit these things to come into your life in order to break you. He allowed them for a higher purpose, not for your destruction, but for their instruction. Yes, God could have prevented it all. He could have silenced every whisper spoken against you, shut every lying mouth, dismantled every plan designed in secret, and canceled every scheme birthed out of envy. He could have shielded you from betrayal and blocked every curse before it ever left their lips. But he didn't. And the reason he didn't is profound. Sometimes the greatest form of justice is not found in prevention, but in exposure. Sometimes the lesson is not in stopping the action, but in allowing the intent to be revealed for what it truly is. God allowed it, not because he desired to watch you suffer, but because he already knew the truth about you, that none of it could destroy you. He knew that you were covered under his protection. He knew that you were grounded, deeply rooted in him. He knew that your faith, tested though it might be, would outlast the flames of every fire. But them, they needed to learn. They needed to see with their own eyes what happens when someone dares to curse the anointed. They needed to understand that you cannot plot against the chosen of God and walk away untouched or unmarked. So God allowed them to try. He permitted them to dig the ditch, believing you would fall in it. He allowed them to set the trap, convinced you would be caught. He let them speak the curse, thinking their words had power. But in reality, all he did was give them enough rope to expose the truth of their own hearts. It was never about your destruction. It was always about their revelation. He allowed it so they could see clearly the consequences of operating from malice, from jealousy, from envy, and from spiritual pride. What they hurled at you was not merely empty words. It was energy. It carried intent. And heaven sees intent. Heaven does not simply measure outward actions. It weighs the hidden motives behind them. And while they were busy sending curses toward you, God was simultaneously at work, turning those same attacks into stepping stones for your elevation. He was building your resilience, strengthening your character, increasing your covering, and positioning you for greater. So while they thought they were cursing you, you were, in fact, being covered. While they assumed you had been abandoned, the truth was that you had been appointed for a higher place. And the very pain they imagined would break you became the fuel that God himself used to bless you. Their curse became your confirmation. Their betrayal became your testimony. And their attack became the evidence of your divine protection. Now they are left in confusion, bewildered as they witness you shining with a glow they cannot dim, all while their own lives begin to unravel and fall apart before their very eyes. Now they are left wondering why the very negativity, malice, and curses they once sent in your direction are suddenly showing up at their own doorstep, knocking loudly in the form of consequences. But understand this clearly. What is happening is not mere karma, nor is it coincidence. This is divine justice. This is the law of sowing and reaping, a universal principle that God himself established and built into the very fabric of creation. Whatever a person does to another, they ultimately do to themselves. For what is sown will always return, multiplied in the harvest. God did not intervene to stop them in their plotting, because he wanted them to see who they truly are when their masks are removed. He wanted you to see it too, so that your discernment could no longer be clouded by misplaced trust or misplaced compassion. He wanted you to stop offering the benefit of the doubt to snakes disguised as companions. He wanted you to cease entertaining the presence of individuals whose energy, motives, and spirit were never aligned with your destiny. He wanted you to grasp the sobering truth that some people did not love you for who you were, but only for what they could extract, consume, and gain from you. And the moment you were no longer available to supply their selfish appetites, their true nature was unmasked, revealed in plain sight. Chosen one, do not waste your tears grieving over what God allowed. Instead, lift your voice in rejoicing, for the very experience that looked and felt like betrayal was, in reality, divine protection. The very attack that at first appeared to be a devastating setback was actually God's way of showing you the snakes in the grass before you entered into your next season of elevation. What they did to you was undeniably wrong, but what God did with it was nothing short of flawless. He overturned it, He reversed it. He transformed their schemes into stepping stones for your growth. And now the same individuals who once tried to curse you are left to watch, powerless as you flourish in divine favor. They cannot access the grace you walk in, for their hearts were never pure enough, never clean enough, never surrendered enough to carry it. Yes, God permitted them to curse, but He never permitted the curse to land. It was blocked, reversed, and rendered powerless before it could touch you. Because you, dear chosen one, are not merely protected. You are appointed. You are covered. You are chosen. Chapter 4. Every attack against you became the source of your strength. Chosen one, let us speak with honesty and clarity. They never truly believed you would survive. In fact, they threw everything they possibly could against you in hopes of watching you collapse beneath the weight. They hurled lies, crafting false narratives designed to smear your name. They betrayed you, smiling to your face while plotting in secret. They spread gossip in whispers, hoping to poison others against you. They gave you the cold silence of withdrawal, using absence as a weapon. They cloaked jealousy with false concern, disguising envy as advice. They even went as far as to send curses in the deceptive form of prayers. They thought such attacks would be enough to break your spirit completely. They convinced themselves that if they could isolate you long enough, if they could press the right buttons deeply enough, you would fold under pressure, crumble into despair, or even disappear altogether. But what they did not expect, and what they could not comprehend, is that you did not break. You rose, not because you were flawless, but because you were purposed. Not because you were without fear, but because you were full of faith. Every dagger thrown in your direction, you refused to pick up and use it for retaliation. Instead, you used it as a tool to carve and refine your character. Every lie spoken against you, you did not waste precious time and energy trying to defend yourself with words. You allowed the integrity of your life to speak louder than false accusations. Every attempt to curse you only served to reveal the undeniable depth of your calling. What your enemies failed to realize is that their attacks were not destroying you. They were shaping you. The fire they set to consume you became the very furnace that refined you. The isolation they forced upon you became the divine setting where your true identity was revealed. The very weapons designed for your destruction were, in reality, the instruments of your divine development. Through the storm, you learned how to stand tall without surrendering your peace. You discovered the discipline of protecting your energy, the wisdom of guarding your heart, and the strategy of moving in silence. You developed the vision to discern what was genuine from what was counterfeit, the sensitivity to recognize spirits for what they truly were, and the maturity to detach without bitterness or hate. Chosen one, understand this clearly. Your silence was never weakness, it was spiritual strategy. You did not waste your energy clapping back. You chose instead to climb higher. You did not chase revenge. You pursued purpose. And in that pursuit, you unlocked a level of strength, resilience, and wisdom that only spiritual warfare could bring forth. Because true anointing is never built in the comfort of ease. It is forged in the crucible of conflict, where fire purifies and battles prepare you for the throne you were destined to sit upon. You were trained in the hidden places of darkness so that, in due time, you could shine with undeniable brilliance in the light. You were wounded in the secrecy of solitude so that, when the appointed season came, you could stand publicly as a vessel of healing for others. And now you carry within you something rare and precious, an authority that is not artificial or borrowed, but one that has been birthed and authenticated through adversity. That is why people are confused when they look at you today. They see the radiant glow you carry, but they do not understand the tremendous cost behind it. They admire the strength you now embody, but they never witnessed the tears you shed when no one else was watching. They observe your elevation with awe, but they were not present on those long nights when you wept before God, pleading for Him to take the pain away. Yet it was precisely that pain which became your teacher and revealed to you your purpose. It was the warfare you endured that instructed you in the depth of true worship. It was the betrayal you suffered that finally taught you the wisdom of boundaries. And because of all these lessons, nothing in life now hits you the same way it once did. You are no longer easily shaken by the winds of opposition. You are no longer quick to react or respond to every provocation. You move differently now because you are different now. You have been tested, and you came through the testing refined. You have been broken, but in the breaking, you were rebuilt stronger than before. You were underestimated by many, and yet you rose in power and dignity regardless. And now the very same people who once tried to curse you, hinder you, or bury you are forced to watch your rise in silence, unable to stop what God has established. They thought their words of destruction would bury you, but those words became the very soil from which you grew. They thought their betrayal would break you beyond repair, but that betrayal became the precise moment of your breakthrough. Chosen one, understand this deeply. You did not merely survive the attack. You ascended to another level because of it, and that, more than anything, is what makes you unstoppable. You are no longer the same person who was once attacked, because the battles you endured transformed you permanently. You are now wiser in discernment, sharper in vision, stronger in spirit, and most importantly, unshakable in faith. For the anointing you now carry was not given cheaply. It was forged in the very fire they intended to consume you with.
Chapter 5. The intention was clear. They sought to make you question your own power. As the chosen one, it is crucial for you to grasp this fundamental truth. The most insidious curses are not always loud, obvious, or ritualistic. They do not always manifest as dark spells, chants, or ceremonies. Rather, the curse that they hoped would take hold was far more subtle. A psychological tempest, a spiritual and internal storm invisible to the untrained eye. Their strategy was not to harm your body, but to infiltrate your mind. Their aim was to plant tiny seeds of doubt, nurtured by your pain and vulnerabilities, hoping these seeds would grow into persistent lies within your soul. They wanted you to question your value, to silence your voice, to stray from the path destined for you. They sought to make you look in the mirror and fail to recognize the royalty reflected back at you, to shrink yourself, to minimize your potential, and to convince yourself that perhaps you were never chosen at all, that maybe your sense of purpose was merely an illusion. And let us be honest, there were moments when their attempts almost succeeded. You found yourself asking why certain people departed from your life. You wondered if perhaps the fault lay with you. You doubted your abilities, questioned the legitimacy of your gift, and second-guessed the timing of your journey. You even cried out to God, whispering, "Are you certain that you called me for this?" Yet despite these moments of uncertainty, you eventually remembered. You remembered the nights in which chaos threatened to overwhelm your mind, and yet inexplicably, peace settled upon you. You recalled the storms through which you walked, storms that should have consumed you entirely, yet you remained standing, steadfast and unshaken. You remembered the times when you felt fractured, empty, abandoned, and yet joy found a way to seep into your spirit. You recognized that reaching this point was not an accident. You had been carried, chosen, appointed, and divinely protected throughout the journey. They had hoped you would forget, but you remembered your identity. You recalled the words God spoke over you when no one else was watching. You remembered the promises whispered deep within your spirit. You came to understand that divine favor does not always manifest as popularity, that periods of isolation are not punishments, but preparation, and that what seems like a wilderness is rarely a dead end. It is, in fact, divine positioning designed to equip you for what lies ahead. You reclaimed your power, not through loud proclamations or acts of vengeance, but through the quiet yet unwavering choice to embrace truth. You did so by rising each day and faithfully stepping into the assignment placed before you, even when the weight of it pressed heavily upon your shoulders. You silenced every deceptive voice with the authority of your Creator, letting divine truth override every lie, every whisper of doubt. You chose deliberately not to conform, refusing to dim your light merely to make others feel comfortable, or to fit into the narrow expectations of those who could not see your vision. And in choosing this path, by remembering, reclaiming, and embracing who you truly are, you reversed every curse that had been directed toward you. For the real danger was never in the words that were spoken against you. It lay in the fear they sought to implant, in the doubt they cunningly disguised as well-meaning advice, in the spiritual manipulation that masqueraded as concern. Yet you saw clearly through their schemes. Your discernment awakened. You refused to be ensnared. You did not succumb. Instead, you shattered the trap entirely, leaving those who sought to contain you shaken and exposed. What they feared most is now unfolding before their eyes. You are rising fully into your God-given power, not as a compromised or controllable version of yourself, not as a diminished shadow of the potential they once hoped to suppress, but as the complete, radiant embodiment of your anointing, unapologetic, unshaken, and uncontainable. Chosen One, this is your era of remembrance. It is a season in which you remember the full measure of your strength, the depth and certainty of your calling, and the unassailable truth that no demon in hell and no adversary on earth has the power to nullify what God has ordained for your life. They endeavored to make you doubt your power, to convince you that you were less than you are. But all their efforts achieved was to awaken, ignite, and amplify it.
Chapter 6, the backfire came swiftly and silently, with a force so subtle that most would fail to recognize its arrival. Chosen One, pay close attention, for this is the moment that often takes people by surprise. When they unleashed their curses, enacted their schemes, and whispered their prayers against you. They did so with unwavering confidence, fully expecting that chaos, pain, and confusion would descend upon your life like a violent storm, imagining that they would witness your collapse firsthand, seeing you defeated, powerless, and broken. Yet what they failed to anticipate was that the very backfire they sought to avoid would manifest with unmatched speed, silence, and inevitability. It did not announce itself with the dramatic roar of thunder or the sudden flash of lightning that movies might depict. There was no spectacle, no overt signal, no evidence to mark its arrival. It moved quietly, almost invisibly, beyond the perception of those who lacked spiritual sight. While they were consumed with observing your supposed downfall, they remained blind to the unraveling of their own lives, unaware that the very energy they sought to wield against you was quietly turning against them. Peace began to slip through their fingers as if it were fine sand, their meticulously planned strategies faltering and collapsing under their own weight. Relationships they had taken for granted began to fracture. Opportunities they pursued with determination and certainty suddenly vanished, and their lives became infiltrated by confusion, fear, and unforeseen setbacks. Yet because these battles were fought in a realm beyond the visible and tangible, a plane of spiritual warfare, they failed to see the true cause of their troubles. They attributed their misfortunes to luck, coincidence, or the actions of others, entirely missing the invisible hand of divine intervention at work. The very energy they directed toward you returned to them, magnified and intensified, while they continued to celebrate what they mistakenly believed was your defeat. Meanwhile, you were shielded by an unseen, invincible force. God fought on your behalf, not with noise, not with spectacle, but with unmatched precision, moving in the shadows to dismantle their strongholds, break apart their strategies, and transform the very curses they cast into chains that bound only themselves. This backfire was by no means accidental. It was a deliberate act of divine intervention, a manifestation of God's silent yet unstoppable justice, executed with both swiftness and certainty. It was the hand of heaven itself stepping decisively into the affairs of your life, declaring with authority, "No, this one belongs to me." While they scramble in confusion, trying to comprehend where their schemes failed, you continue to rise, unshaken by opposition, untouched by their envy, and entirely unbothered by their attempts to derail you. They had set out with the intent to see your ruin, yet the outcome was reversed. They themselves were broken, undone by the very energies they had released. They sought to extinguish your light, yet in their efforts, their own darkness was revealed for all to see. They aimed their arrows at your heart, yet those arrows, like boomerangs of judgment, circled back and struck them with precision. Chosen one, this quiet and unseen victory stands as irrefutable evidence of your favor. It is living proof that the divine protection encasing your life is neither mythical nor passive. It is real, active, and overwhelmingly powerful. No weapon, no curse, no plan formed against you can ever succeed, whether in the natural realm or the spiritual dimension. Therefore, when you reflect on those who attempted to curse or undermine you, do not entertain feelings of pity or anger. Instead, allow your heart to overflow with gratitude, for their failure is your testimony, their collapse is your confirmation, and the backfire of their schemes is the silent proclamation of your unstoppable ascent. God fights for you. He fights quietly, without fanfare. He fights swiftly, with impeccable timing. He fights with surgical precision, dismantling every attack before it can even reach you. And because of his intervention, the curses they sent never found their mark. They returned to their origin faster, harder, and more completely than they could have ever anticipated. Chapter 7. Your blessings stand as undeniable evidence of their failure, chosen one. And it is essential that you take a moment to fully absorb and internalize this profound truth. Despite everything that was thrown at you, despite every scheme, curse, and whispered attempt to undermine you, you remain standing. You are still breathing, still shining, still rising, stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever before. And this is the irrefutable proof of your divine protection and purpose. Every blessing that has manifested in your life since those attacks serves as a clear, unmistakable confirmation that what was sent against you held no power to break you. Every curse spoken, every word uttered in malice, every secret wish for your downfall, each and every one of them failed because your foundation is anchored in a force far greater than any darkness could ever overcome. Look carefully at the transformation in your life. Opportunities have appeared without warning. Doors you never imagined could open have swung wide. Peace has settled over your soul, even in the midst of chaos. Your spirit has been fortified, your mind sharpened, and your heart expanded. And none of this came from striving harder or forcing your way forward. Instead, it flowed naturally from walking in alignment with your divine assignment, allowing God's plan to unfold in its perfect timing without resistance. When one is truly chosen one, they do not have to fight every battle on their own. The war has already been won in the unseen spiritual realms. All that is required of you is to show up in faith, confident that victory belongs to you by divine decree. Favor is not earned through struggle. It is a gift of grace to be received and lived out faithfully. You now move differently because your steps are ordered by the Most High. You walk with authority because you have been appointed and anointed. You rise with power because your destiny has been secured by promises that cannot fail. Let those who wished you harm speak, plot, and scheme. Let them expend their efforts, trying in vain to bring you down. Their words are empty noise against the fortress God has built around you. Their plans are like shadows, fading in the overwhelming light of your unstoppable ascent. You do not respond in fear. You do not waver in doubt. You do not stumble in confusion, because the chosen one moves in favor, undaunted, unshaken, and unwavering. The chosen one walks in peace, steady and confident, shines with clarity, boldness, and radiance. Your blessings themselves testify to their failure, and your rise stands as living proof that you were never meant to fall. Your very existence declares that every attempt to harm you has only strengthened you, refined you, and positioned you for greatness. Hold tightly to this truth with every ounce of your being. Speak it over your life daily as a sacred anthem, allowing it to fill your heart, fuel your spirit, ignite your purpose, and sharpen your vision. This is your season, your moment to shine, your opportunity to ascend higher than ever before, and to demonstrate to the world the unstoppable power of the Chosen One. No curse, no attack, no scheme of darkness can ever halt the destined rise of one set apart by God. Not now, not ever. You were chosen for greatness, you were set apart for victory, and your blessings are living proof that every plan, every attempt of the enemy to destroy you, has been utterly nullified. Walk boldly, Chosen One, for your rise is unstoppable. Your story is far from finished. In truth, it has only just begun. This was never merely about surviving a curse. It was always about rising, thriving, and claiming the destiny that was divinely ordained for you. If you're eager for more, whether additional chapters to this spiritual journey or a powerful visual concept for a video or thumbnail, simply just say the word, "I'm here and I'm ready to help bring it all to life."